The ghostly train ride, nestled in the depths of a forgotten valley, shrouded by a perpetual veil of mist and illuminated by the ethereal glow of the moon, lay the mysterious gateway to a spectral journey, the ghostly train. Its haunting legend had woven itself into the very fabric of folklore, whispered in hushed tones among the locals. For centuries, this cursed locomotive had roamed the tracks, an apparition that prowled the midnight hour, carrying unsuspecting souls to their unknown fate. Tales of its eerie whistle and otherworldly presence were enough to send chills down one's spine. Intrigued by the enigmatic aura that surrounded the abandoned railway line, I embarked on an evening excursion through the fog. As I stepped onto the deserted platform, little did I know of the phantasmal terror that awaited my arrival. As midnight approached, a distant whistle echoed through the valley, signaling the imminent appearance of the spectral train. The air thickened with an otherworldly chill, tendrils of mist snaking around the tracks like ghostly fingers. With bated breath, I watched as the train emerged from the fog, a ghastly visage adorned in decay, its windows aglow with an eerie, pulsating light. My heart raced as the train slowed to a halt before me, its wheels screeching against the tracks like a haunting song. I hesitated, unsure if I should board the cursed vessel, but an inexplicable force pulled me towards it. As I stepped onto the carriage, I felt a cold breeze brush against my face, and the hairs on my arms stood on end. The train was deserted, devoid of any passengers or crew. It was as if the train had been waiting for me, and me alone. The journey began with a jolt, and the train chugged along the tracks, picking up speed with each passing moment. The windows rattled violently and the walls creaked under the pressure of an unseen force. It was then that I realized the true nature of the ghostly train. It was not just a cursed vehicle that carried souls to their unknown fate, but a sentient being that fed on fear and despair. As the train barreled through the darkness, I could feel its malevolent presence seeping into my mind, whispering dark thoughts and dredging up memories of my deepest fears. I tried to resist, to fight back against the train's insidious influence, but it was like trying to stop a raging storm. The train's power was overwhelming, and no matter how hard I struggled, I felt myself succumbing to its will. Hours passed and still the train raced on, hurtling through the darkness with relentless speed. My mind was in a frenzy, consumed by the train's dark whispers and haunted by visions of unspeakable horrors. Then, just as suddenly as it had started, the journey came to an abrupt halt. The train screeched to a stop, and I was thrown from my seat, tumbling to the wooden floor. For a moment I lay there in a daze, my mind reeling from the harrowing experience, but then I realized that I was not alone. Standing before me was a figure cloaked in darkness with glowing red eyes piercing through the shadows. I tried to scramble to my feet, but my body felt heavy and unresponsive. The figure spoke, its voice like gravel grinding against concrete. "You have journeyed far, mortal, but your journey is not yet over." It beckoned me forward, and I found myself compelled to obey. As I drew closer, the figure revealed itself to be a demon of immense power, towering over me with a malevolent aura that made my skin crawl. "You are here because I have need of you," the demon said, its eyes boring into mine with an intensity that was both terrifying and exhilarating. It explained that it had sensed a darkness within me, a potential for great power that could be harnessed for its own purposes. It offered me a deal. In exchange for my soul, it would grant me unimaginable power and immortality beyond human understanding. I hesitated, unsure if I should accept the demon's offer, but deep down, I knew that I craved power and the ability to live forever. And so, with a trembling voice, I agreed to the demon's deal. A smirk spread across its face, revealing sharp teeth that glinted in the dim light. "Excellent," it said. "Your journey with me has only just begun." The demon reached out a hand, its fingers curling around my wrist with a grip that was both cold and fiery. It pulled me closer, and I felt a surge of energy coursing through my veins. In that moment, everything changed. My mind expanded, my senses heightened, and I felt a rush of power that was beyond anything I had ever experienced. The demon's promise had been fulfilled, and I knew that nothing would ever be the same again. Together we stepped into the darkness, ready to embark on a journey of power, pain, and pleasure. For with the demon as my guide, I knew that I would be unstoppable, a force to be reckoned with in this world and beyond. We wandered through the shadows, the demon leading me deeper into the abyss. Its power pulsated through my body, intensifying with every step we took. I could feel myself changing, morphing into something new and terrifying. The demon noticed my transformation and let out a low, guttural laugh. "Yes, embrace it," it said. "Let the power flow through you. Become what you were always meant to be." As we journeyed further into the darkness, I could feel my craving for power growing stronger. It was an insatiable hunger that consumed me, driving me forward with a single-minded purpose. At last, we reached a chamber filled with flickering torches and a throne of black metal. The demon gestured towards the throne and said, "Sit, mortal. You are now one of us." I sat on the throne, feeling its cold, hard surface beneath me, and as I did, I knew that I had truly become something otherworldly. The demon approached me and knelt before me, placing a hand on my knee. "You have done well," it said, "but there is still more power to be gained. Are you ready to take the next step?" I nodded, eager for whatever was to come. The demon rose to its feet and began to chant in a language that I could not comprehend. The air grew thick with a dark energy, and I felt my body beginning to convulse. Suddenly, pain exploded through my being, every nerve ending on fire, but as quickly as it had started, the discomfort faded away, replaced by a new sense of power and euphoria. I looked down at my hands and gasped. They were no longer human, but instead were covered in scales, talons extending from the fingertips. The demon smiled, revealing those sharp teeth once more. "Yes, embrace your true form. You are now one of us, a creature to be reckoned with in this world and beyond." With the newfound power surging through my veins, I rose from the throne, towering over the demon who had given me this gift. My body trembled with a dark energy, muscles bulging and pulsating with raw strength that surpassed any human limits. The demon led me out of the chamber and into a vast fiery cavern filled with other grotesque creatures like me. Their twisted forms turned towards me, their eyes glowing with awe and fear as they recognized the magnitude of my transformation. I was no longer bound by mortal constraints. I was something far beyond, a force to be reckoned with in the realm of darkness. And as I gazed out into the endless abyss, a sinister thrill coursed through me, for I knew that I was now one of them, a demon of the underworld, destined to unleash chaos and destruction upon the mortal world. With a wicked grin, I stepped forward into my new life, ready to revel in the terror and reverence I would inspire in those foolish enough to oppose me. The Haunted Ornament, nestled in a picturesque town of snow-covered pines and quaint cottages, stood an ancient manor steeped in mystery. The Harrington estate, with its walls adorned in ivy and towering oak doors, bore witness to generations past. But hidden within its halls was a sinister secret, one that lurked within the forgotten recesses of the attic, a relic with a cursed origin: the Haunted Ornament. Whispers of this artifact echoed through the town like a spectral heirloom, passed down through generations in hushed tones. Its malevolent aura was rumored to ensnare unsuspecting souls within its delicate glass confines. While many dismissed it as folklore, the Layton family soon learned the truth upon moving into the estate. Drawn to the mysteries held within the dusty corners of the attic, the Laytons uncovered the ornament amidst cobweb-laden trunks and moth-eaten tapestries. Its delicate surface, etched with intricate designs, seemed to writhe under even the faintest light. Oblivious to its dark history, they hung it proudly upon their Christmas tree, unaware of the terror it would unleash. As they decorated their tree with baubles and tinsel, an eerie chill settled over the manor. Faint whispers echoed through the halls, growing louder with each passing night. Shadows danced wickedly in the flickering candlelight, and unseen hands rattled doorknobs, sending shivers down their spines. The allure of the ornament masked the impending horror that awaited them, its presence a foreboding omen of doom, lurking just beneath its delicate facade. As the nights grew colder, so did the atmosphere within the Harrington estate. the Layton family could not shake the feeling of being watched, of something unseen lurking in the shadows. Strange occurrences plagued them at every turn, from objects moving on their own to unexplained footsteps echoing through the halls in the dead of night. Every time they looked at the haunted ornament, they could feel the malevolent energy radiating off of it, like a toxic cloud. They began to experience vivid nightmares, night terrors filled with grotesque visions of decaying corpses and writhing serpents. The lines between reality and nightmare blurred, and soon it became hard to tell which was which. They started to see apparitions lurking in their peripheral vision, fleeting glimpses of twisted faces and unnatural movements. The Laytons knew that they had to get rid of the ornament, but every attempt they made to remove it from their home was met with resistance. The ornament seemed to possess a will of its own, and it was determined to stay with them no matter what. It had become an unwelcome presence in their lives, one that they couldn't escape from. Days turned into weeks, and the Laytons slowly began to lose their grip on reality. They were consumed by the ornament's malevolent energy, unable to think or act rationally. The whispers grew louder, taunting them with promises of death and destruction. The shadows became more solid, taking on twisted forms that defied comprehension. And then one night, as they huddled together in fear, the ornament began to glow. The delicate surface crackled with dark power, and the room was filled with an otherworldly light. The Laytons screamed as the ornament burst apart, unleashing a horde of writhing serpents that slithered towards them with malicious intent. The Harrington estate was consumed by the sounds of blood-curdling screams and the slithering hisses of snakes, creating a cacophony of terror that echoed through its halls. As the nightmare reached its climax, the once proud Layton family lay reduced to a mere pile of bones. But the true source of this horror was not gone, for the haunted ornament still pulsed with dark energy, its evil now amplified by the destruction it had caused. It lay dormant in the midst of the carnage, a silent killer waiting for its next unsuspecting victim to cross its path. Over the years, the Harrington estate became a desolate and forsaken place, left to rot and decay under the watchful eye of the cursed ornament. Yet even in its abandonment, the evil presence lingered, biding its time until new prey stumbled upon its cursed existence. And so it was that over time, the Harrington estate became known as one of the most haunted places in the world. Local legends spoke of the restless souls that still screamed in agony within its walls, their tortured existence forever tied to the power of the haunted ornament. Many brave souls attempted to uncover the mystery behind the horrific events that transpired at the estate, but none ever returned. It was as though they had been consumed by the malevolent force lurking within, leaving nothing but their bones behind as a grim warning to others. And so, to this day, the legend of the haunted ornament lives on as a cautionary tale of what lurks in the shadows, a reminder that even seemingly innocent objects can hold unimaginable power and unleash unspeakable horrors upon those foolish enough to challenge them. The Haunted Chorus. In the small town of Whispering Pines, nestled in the heart of a winter wonderland blanketed by snow and ice, a cherished tradition unfolded each Christmas Eve, the ethereal melody of carolers echoing through the frosty streets. Yet, this year, amidst the serene stillness of the town, the echoes carried an eerie warning, foretelling an unfathomable terror that would forever etch its mark upon the town's history, the chilling tale of the frozen carolers. As twilight descended, a ghostly choir materialized at the town square, their translucent figures swaying in time with the howling wind. Their voices blended seamlessly with the Arctic gusts, weaving a haunting tapestry of melodic enchantment that captivated all who heard it. From their frosted windows, residents peered out at the mesmerizing sight, unaware of the sinister fate that awaited these spectral singers. Among those drawn to the scene were the Montgomery family, wrapped in thick woolen coats and scarves as they ventured into the biting cold. Transfixed by an inexplicable allure towards the haunting harmony, they stepped closer to the carolers' frozen forms. With each sway and crescendo of their mystical chorus, an unworldly aura enveloped them. A sudden gust swept through the square, carrying a supernatural frost that coated the singers in an icy embrace, freezing their ethereal notes into a haunting melody suspended in time. The townspeople watched in awe and fear as a new legend unfolded before their eyes, one rooted in beauty and tragedy, and forever known as the Frozen Carolers. As the last note of the Frozen Carolers faded away, a deafening silence descended upon Whispering Pines. The Montgomery family stood frozen in place, their breaths visible in the frigid air, as they gazed at the ethereal figures trapped in their icy prison. Something about the scene felt off to them, and a sense of unease settled in their stomachs. Suddenly, one of the Frozen Carolers stirred, their translucent form flickering like a dying flame. The Montgomerys watched in horror as the figure broke free of its icy restraints, revealing a twisted and malevolent face that glared at them with burning eyes. A cacophony of screeching laughter erupted from the frozen choir, their ghostly forms contorting into grotesque shapes as they descended upon the Montgomerys. The family tried to run, but their feet remained rooted to the ground as if held in place by an invisible force. The Frozen Carolers closed in on them, their chilling breath freezing the air around them. The Montgomerys screamed in terror as the spectral singers began to encircle them, their haunting melody now transformed into a demonic chant. As the first of the Montgomerys was dragged away by the twisted carolers, the others realized that there was no escaping the frozen horrors. They closed their eyes and braced themselves for the inevitable fate that awaited them. But then, something unexpected happened. A gust of wind blew through the square once more, carrying with it a warm and inviting melody that sliced through the demonic chanting of the frozen carolers. The Montgomery family opened their eyes to see a new group of carolers approaching them, their faces bathed in golden light. Unlike the frozen carolers, these singers radiated warmth and joy, and their voices were filled with a divine energy that banished the demons back into their icy prison. The new carolers continued to sing, their voices growing more powerful and resonant as they battled against the frozen tendrils of the twisted carolers. The icy grip slowly weakened and cracked, releasing the demonic faces that contorted in agony as they were banished back to the spirit realm from which they came. The Montgomery family stood in awe, their hearts pounding with fear and wonder as they witnessed the battle between good and evil unfold before them. But as the ice melted away, it was replaced with a warm and heavenly melody that filled their souls with joy and hope. The divine carolers disappeared one by one, leaving behind only a lingering sense of peace and protection. The Montgomerys knew that they had narrowly escaped a terrible fate, saved by the power of music and spirit. As they left Whispering Pines behind, they carried with them the knowledge that even in the darkest of times, there is always hope and strength in the face of evil. The Mistletoe Curse. The heart of Evergreen Hollow was a twisted amalgamation of festivity and horror. Centuries-old traditions mingled with the scent of pine, but a peculiar mistletoe held a sinister secret that would make even the bravest of souls cower in fear. The Mistletoe Curse whispered among the town's cobblestone pathways, bringing a chill to the very bones of those who dared to listen. For generations, this seemingly innocuous plant harbored a malevolent force, waiting for unsuspecting victims to get ensnared beneath its boughs. The Thompson family, newcomers to Evergreen Hollow, arrived on the cusp of the Yuletide season, blissfully unaware of the town's hidden menace. Drawn by the nostalgic allure of a small town's holiday charm, they settled into their quaint cottage, oblivious to the horrors lurking just beyond their doorstep. As the winter days shortened and the air grew heavy with anticipation, the townsfolk adorned their streets and homes with vibrant decorations. Yet amidst the shimmering lights and cheerful carols, the mischievous mistletoe hung in unsuspecting doorways like a noose waiting to snap shut around its prey. Its festive guise concealed a ghastly fate for those unlucky enough to find themselves trapped beneath its deadly embrace. The Thompsons felt their spirits lifted by the festivity that permeated Evergreen Hollow. They spent their days exploring the town's shops and restaurants, marveling at the decorations and indulging in sweet holiday treats. But as the nights grew longer, a sense of unease began to take hold. The mistletoe haunted their dreams, its white berries dripping with blood, and its leaves wilting like the dead. One evening, while walking home from dinner, they found themselves lost in the maze of winding streets. The mist was thick, and a soul-chilling cold settled into their bones. It was then that they stumbled upon an old abandoned mansion, looming ominously in the darkness. They felt drawn towards it, as if some force was pulling them closer. As they approached the front door, they noticed a small sprig of mistletoe hanging from the doorknob. Without thinking, Mr. Thompson reached out to remove it, but his hand froze in mid-air. A voice, soft and alluring, whispered in his ear, "Leave it be, dear sir. It's better to stay on the safe side." The Thompsons turned around, but no one was there. They exchanged a glance of confusion before hesitantly pushing open the mansion's front door. The inside of the mansion was dark and devoid of any holiday cheer. The air was still, and the silence was deafening. The only sound was the creaking of wooden floorboards beneath their feet. They explored the first floor, finding nothing out of the ordinary, but as they climbed the grand staircase towards the second floor, the temperature dropped drastically. Their breaths came out in visible puffs as they huddled together for warmth. They reached the top of the stairs and found a long hallway with several doors. As they approached one of the doors, they heard a faint whispering coming from inside. They slowly pushed open the door to reveal a room filled with mistletoe. The sweet, earthy scent of the plant filled their noses, but there was something off about it. The leaves were drooping, and the berries were black and oozing a strange liquid. Suddenly, they heard the same soft voice from before. "Welcome to my home. I see you found my collection." A figure emerged from the shadows, its face obscured by a hooded cloak. "I am the keeper of mistletoe, and it seems that you have stumbled upon my sanctuary." The Thompsons tried to back away, but their feet seemed rooted to the spot. The hooded figure approached them, its eyes glinting in the darkness. "You see, mistletoe is a powerful plant. It has the ability to draw out desires from within us, whether they be good or bad." Mr. Thompson felt a sudden surge of desire overwhelm him. He wanted to touch the mistletoe, to taste its bitter sap, to feel its leaves against his skin. He reached out his hand towards the plant, but the hooded figure stopped him. The figure said. "You mustn't touch it just yet. First, you must make a choice." "A choice?" Mrs. Thompson asked, feeling a sense of unease. "Yes," the hooded figure said. "You must choose between temptation and restraint. Will you give in to your desires or resist them?" The Thompsons looked at each other, unsure of what to do. Mr. Thompson's desire for the mistletoe was still pulsing through him, but he didn't want to give in so easily. Mrs. Thompson, on the other hand, felt a sense of fear and wanted nothing to do with the plant. I choose restraint," Mr. Thompson finally said, his hand still hovering inches away from the mistletoe. "Very well," the hooded figure said, nodding. "Restraint it is." The figure then lifted its hood, revealing a face that was both beautiful and terrifying. Its eyes were a bright emerald green, and its lips were painted a deep red. The Thompsons couldn't help but stare in awe and fear. "Good choice," the figure said with a smile. "Restraint is a virtue that is often underappreciated." The figure then gestured towards the mistletoe. "You may touch it now, but be warned, once you do, you will be forever bound to its power." Mr. Thompson hesitated for a moment, but the desire was too strong. He reached out his hand and touched the mistletoe. As soon as he did, he felt a rush of energy surge through him. He closed his eyes and breathed deeply, savoring the feeling. Mrs. Thompson watched in horror as her husband's face contorted with pleasure. Suddenly, Mr. Thompson let out a loud moan and collapsed onto the ground, writhing in ecstasy. Mrs. Thompson knelt beside him, trying to shake him awake, but he was unresponsive. The hooded figure stood by, watching the scene unfold with a smirk on its face. "He was warned," the figure said nonchalantly. "He made his choice." Mrs. Thompson felt a mix of emotions: anger, fear, and sadness. She couldn't believe what had happened to her husband. She looked up at the figure, now feeling a sense of hatred towards it. "What have you done to him?" she screamed, her voice echoing through the clearing. The figure chuckled. "I haven't done anything. Your husband simply gave in to his desires. He chose the mistletoe over restraint." Mrs. Thompson stood up, fists clenched. "I demand you fix this." The figure sighed. I'm afraid that's not possible. Once the mistletoe has taken hold, there's no going back. Mrs. Thompson felt her heart break as the truth of her husband's fate hit her like a ton of bricks. She was engulfed in a state of both grief and joy, knowing he would never be free from this endless cycle of pleasure and pain. She sank to the ground, sobbing uncontrollably, broken by her own mistakes. Yet at the same time, a warmth spread through her body as she noticed the mistletoe, a reminder that her husband had chosen his own destiny, regardless of what it cost him or his family. The story follows Ellison Oswalt, a true crime writer who has hit a rough patch in his career. Seeking inspiration for his next book, he moves his family, his wife Tracy, and their 2 children, Ashley and Trevor, to a seemingly ordinary suburban house in Pennsylvania. Unbeknownst to his family, the house was the site of a gruesome crime, where a family was murdered, and 1 child went missing. Ellison believes that uncovering the truth about the crime will reignite his writing career, but he discovers a box of old home movies in the attic, each depicting the murders of different families across the years. As Ellison watches the disturbing home movies, he begins to unravel a pattern connecting the murders, all of which appear to be the work of the same unknown individual. He becomes obsessed with the case, much to the chagrin of his family and local law enforcement. Strange and unsettling events begin to occur in the house, and Ellison becomes convinced that a malevolent supernatural force is at work. He enlists the help of a local deputy to investigate the crimes and uncover the identity of the malevolent entity known as Bughul. The film builds to a suspenseful and terrifying climax as Ellison delves deeper into the mystery, discovering the horrifying truth behind the murders. He must confront the evil force that has taken residence in his home and protect his family from the malevolent entity that threatens to consume them. Sinister, directed by Scott Derrickson, relies on tension, suspense, and psychological dread to deliver a truly chilling and unsettling experience. The film is a standout entry in the supernatural horror genre, and it effectively explores the consequences of obsession and the cost of uncovering dark secrets. Ethan Hawke delivers a strong performance as Ellison Oswalt, portraying a character who becomes increasingly consumed by his investigation and the malevolent presence that haunts his family. His descent into paranoia and fear is convincingly portrayed, making the audience share in his growing terror. The film successfully utilizes a combination of found footage, home movies, and traditional filmmaking to create a sense of unease and disorientation. The use of the home movies as a narrative device adds a disturbing layer to the story, as viewers witness the brutal murders through the eyes of the killer. Sinister expertly builds tension, and its slow-burning approach keeps the audience on edge throughout. The film is notable for its use of sound design and a haunting musical score that heightens the suspense. The malevolent entity, Bughul, is a memorable and terrifying presence that lingers in the mind long after the credits roll. Sinister is a genuinely scary and psychologically unsettling horror film that offers a fresh take on the genre. It relies on atmosphere and suspense rather than jump scares, making it a must-see for fans of supernatural horror. It leaves a lasting sense of dread and serves as a testament to the power of well-executed psychological horror. Sinister is 110 minutes long and is rated R for disturbing violent images and some terror. The Southern Underworld gives it 5 bloody knives.